We're back, baby. We are back. Jordan, it's been a hot while. I think we've done a lot of traveling since the last time we recorded, which is why we haven't been able to record. Do you wanna start off and tell us where you've been for the last however long it's been?
Well, since the Miami GP, I've traveled to, I had the privilege of going to Israel for about 2 weeks, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, a great time. And then I went to Toronto for about, I'd say, 5 days to visit some friends. Had a great time. I was out about, not on my phone, really good break. And, because Joan and I were both very nomadic, we just did not have the time to sit down for 2 hours and record this podcast.
Yeah.
So we've decided that we're gonna recap the last three races. Jonah,
Yeah.
I went to like two places. You tell the audience where you've been, because that's much more interesting.
Okay, so since Miami, the Miami GP, I was in Athens. And then I went to Helsinki, Finland for the World Hockey Championships. And then I did a tour of the south of France and Paris with my family, including a trip to Monaco, which we're going to talk a little bit about later. And then after that, I went to Barcelona, Madrid, Amsterdam, and Berlin. And one thing that you can notice is my background is a little bit different than usual, because I am back in Montreal after 5 months and 8 days in France. I am finally back, and it feels so good to be back. And I'm happy that we're finally on the same continent, Jordan, and that we don't need to record with 6-hour time differences. So it's very nice to see you again. So like Jordan said, we are going to recap the last three races. So first we have the Miami GP, which Max won. Then we had the Spanish Grand Prix, which Max also won. And then we had the Monaco Grand Prix, which Sergio Perez won. So since if we don't want this episode to be 3 hours long, we're going to talk about two major bullet points per race. Basically the major storylines. And to start off, we're going to talk about Miami. Miami, super fast circuit. In my opinion, it was a pretty dead race, which is good if you're Max Verstappen, but it's bad if you're a viewer, because there wasn't a lot of action. But in general, Jordan, what do you think of the circuit?
I thought the circuit, and I don't want to be all negative to start off the episode, but I thought it was very overhyped.
I agree.
When we were talking about Miami before the race, everyone's like, this is going to be the race of the season. Miami, new location, South Beach, hot weather, Hard Rock Stadium, Dolphins, all the promotional content that went along with it. And also there were some, one-off liveries for the Miami GP just for the inauguration of it. People were expecting a big race, but my thoughts were that it was a bigger event than it was a race.
I agree.
And a lot more emphasis was placed on the fictional fake boats and
I was just about to talk about the fake marina
and fake water than was placed on, I'd say DRS overtaking. So
yeah,
that's my take. But Jonah, you let me know what your thoughts, anything to add.
I think I don't think that we could blame the circuit designers for a bad race. Like you said, when we were talking about the circuit, we said that it was going to be extremely fast, and because there were such long straights that were going to be easy overtaking. Meanwhile, none of it happened. But like I said, I don't think that that's the circuit builder's fault. I think that it's just the result of a dead race. I mean, dead races happen, and kind of disappointed that the outcome of the first race. Hold on a second. As I was saying, the second. So my first impression of the circuit was that it was going to be super fast, and it was super fast. It's just that nothing else happened other than cars going really, really fast. And like any other race in the US, it's always overshadowed by pictures of celebrities and everything who is, I quote David Coulthard, pretend to care about Formula One, because that's just what races in the US are. So look, I think that the circuit has potential to bring good races. It's just that it wasn't the case this time.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also just been like for what you said about David Coulthard, they pretend to care about Formula One. That's only been in the recent years. 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. We didn't have Serena Williams waving the checkered flag 10 years ago.
Yeah, we didn't have Christina Aguilera trackside taking a video of the cars.
Yeah, it's like an NBA finals game and they're trying to sit courtside.
Yeah,
sort
exactly.
of situation. But yeah, it was very much like I said, more an event than it was a race. And yeah, it's my only takeaway from this whole idea that I laid out is that I'm hoping that Las Vegas does not have the same result.
I think that the spectacle of Las Vegas will overshadow any racing, in my opinion, because Las Vegas, there's a big difference between the two tracks, Miami and Las Vegas. Miami, it's around Hard Rock Stadium. I mean, sure, it's a well-known arena, but it's only a well-known arena if you're a fan of American football and if you live in the US. I don't think anyone outside of the US or Canada or people who are fans of the NFL know what Hard Rock Stadium is. Whereas Las Vegas is internationally known as Sin City, the place where you can have the most fun, the strip, with all the hotels and all the lights and everything. I think that has a lot more recognition than Hard Rock Stadium. And just because it's on the Las Vegas Strip in front of all those hotels, that's going to be a spectacle in of itself. Just because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope the racing is good. That's all I'll say. But
Yeah.
Now let's move on to the actual race that we saw in Miami. As you said, Max Verstappen won. And it was very interesting to see the battle between Max and Charles at the beginning, but then Max ran away with it. So what's your take on that, Jonah? And how does that dictate the course of the championship?
I mean,
is that a metaphor for the rest of the championship?
Up until that point, every single race that Max finished, he won, and he still continued that up until Monaco. And I think it just shows that once you have the combination of a championship winning driver and a championship winning car, they could easily run away with this championship. And as we've seen over the last few races, Ferrari have not necessarily been the sharpest tools in the shed recently. So I feel like it'll be a double-edged sword of Max winning the championship on merit and Ferrari losing the championship for Leclerc, which we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Yeah. Also pretty disappointing to see Carlos Sainz not really competing for a race win at this point in the season.
I think he came close in Monaco, though.
Yeah, but at the point of Miami, he had his fair share of bad luck, and I was really thinking he's going to pick it up in his hometown in Spain because he's always performed well at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to bring that up, yeah, I think that the more and more that Ferrari lose, I would say that if Red Bull were to win the world championship, I don't think it was theirs to win. I think it was Ferrari's to lose.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
And I actually think that the constructors would be more of a Carlos Sainz problem than a Charles Leclerc problem. Mm-hmm. Because clearly the machinery can perform. Clearly it's reliable, as we've seen at the beginning of the season. However, you got a team is two drivers, and that is a rule that has been in place for a while, and it's not going to be changed. And one driver cannot carry a team. You have to have a driver that's very consistent, either like greatest of all time, like Lewis Hamilton, and then maybe a Carlos Sainz. If not, you need to have two even level playing fields in terms of drivers. So,
so basically, if I sum up what you're saying, you need Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, right?
Yeah, effectively. You do, yeah, exactly. So it's just very interesting to see how this play out. But then we had some amazing performances by somebody who is outperforming his GOAT teammate.
The GOAT.
The greatest of all time, in my opinion. Lewis Hamilton, who I said would win the World Drivers' Championship, but now I'm retracting my prediction.
That aged so well, Jordan. That aged so well.
I am conceding my prediction of Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes winning the championship. The only silver lining is that Bottas has beaten the Mercedes in the first 8 races.
Yeah.
So that's all it is. Again, I'm still a huge fan of Valtteri. I was very happy when he came in P4. Let's move on. Let's talk about George Russell. What do you think of his performance? He has been in the top 5 in every single race this season. Jonah, what are your thoughts?
I saw this F1 meme. I'm already getting ready to put the explicit tag on this episode because I'm gonna say the full F1 meme. I think it was you that sent it to me, where it was the horse whisperer. It was a parody on the horse whisperer, and it was George Russell and the Mercedes, and it was the shitbox whisperer.
It's so fun. I think I did.
I think you were the one that sent that to me. And I think that's entirely representative of George Russell's season. He has managed to get so in tune with that car and push it to the maximum that he could show that he has the talent to be at Mercedes and to drive that car. And clearly he's shown that he takes less time to adapt to cars than Lewis Hamilton, or maybe that Lewis Hamilton might never get used to this generation of cars and he might retire at the end of the season because of that. But George Russell, if this was 2021 Mercedes, or if it was 2020 Mercedes, George Russell would be winning every single race. But it's not, but it should be, because that guy deserves to win races.
He does. He is an excellent driver. And I think we could have seen this coming. In hindsight, I look back to his Williams days of outperforming Latifi consistently, also outperforming Robert Kubica consistently. Speaking of which, Montreal is coming up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we could have seen this coming with George Russell, because he was showing signs of this at Williams. And now that the new generation of cars is here, we see his adaptability. We saw his adaptability to a bottom tier car before. And now we see his adaptability to a car that should be really in the midfield. But it's not, because he's there.
Exactly. I'm glad that you brought up George Russell's former teammates, because let's compare George Russell versus all of his teammates. We have Robert Kubica, who, for all you know, if he didn't get injured, he could have easily won more races and won world championships. There was this whole rumor that he was scheduled to drive for Ferrari in 2000 and I don't know, in the early 2010s, but because of his injury, he wasn't able to do so. And that man had talent, and George Russell completely blew him out of the water, except for the time where Kubica got 1 point in Germany 2019. 2020, 2021, we have Nicholas Latifi, who wasn't necessarily the first choice that we would have chosen for someone to get into F1 from F2 those years. And it was proven by the fact that George Russell once again blew him out of the water. And I think that this is on the same level, George Russell versus Lewis Hamilton, as George Russell versus Nicholas Latifi, as George Russell versus Robert Kubica.
Whoa, that is a hot take.
Come on. Lewis Hamilton didn't get out of Q1 a few times. Like, in Barcelona, he said, like, guys, don't waste the engine after lap 1 when, like, I think he's given up. I think this man has like zero positivity left in his body after being hashtag blessed for the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's very he did a very good job in Barcelona though. He did not, his actions spoke louder than his words, let me tell you.
Yeah, but still, you can't have that kind of negativity and be in Formula One right now.
Right.
That's my opinion on that entire thing.
Well, we'll see in the coming months what's going to happen with Lewis, because they are not winning the championship this year. They're not going to be second in the constructors either.
Third?
It's very possible. McLaren doesn't seem too hot, nor does Alpine.
McLaren's had a weird season.
Yeah, it's been very weird. We're going to talk about that later because lots of Daniel Ricciardo rumors are starting to surface. Let's move on from Spain to Monaco.
No, we haven't even talked about Spain yet.
Let's talk about Spain.
Well,
the Spanish Grand Prix is not supposed to be a good Grand Prix. However, in the past 2 years, it has been a good Grand Prix.
It hasn't been a top tier Grand Prix. It's been like an A to B level Grand Prix.
Yeah. It has not been a Miami GP, let me tell you.
Well, yeah, exactly. And one storyline of the Spanish Grand Prix that was especially relevant to us, as our favorite team, was the whole thing of the green Red Bull, where Aston Martin brought a completely new upgrade package that looked really, really similar to the current Red Bull. And I just want to say that Red Bull was being so petty, and I love it so much, where during practice, all of the pit wall of Red Bull was drinking the green Red Bull. Like, I don't know what flavor it is because I don't drink Red Bull, but Red Bull has this sort of flavored energy drink where like it has different colors on the can. It's like yellow for whatever, blue for whatever. And they all drank the green one during practice. I was like, that is the pettiest thing ever, and I love it. A+ to you, Red Bull.
Yeah, I saw that. That was really funny. And also, I follow WTF1, and when they both got out in Q1, he tweeted 2 Red Bulls out in Q1 for the first time this season.
Well, that's basically where I wanted to bring this storyline is, for a car that was supposed to look like the championship leader, didn't necessarily do that well.
No, and it didn't perform like the Red Bull either. It felt like it was
Mercedes engine.
Yeah, it sounds like it's look, I haven't, because of all the traveling, I haven't been really following as much in the past couple of weeks, so I cannot put my finger on the problem. However, what I can say is that it did not perform like the Red Bull did. And not only did it not perform like the Red Bull did, it was like seconds off the Red Bull. And for those
both
who
of
don't
them
know,
were out in Q1.
in the Formula One world, seconds is like hours.
100% agree. It's disappointing. It's seriously disappointing.
I thought that we were going to see 2 cars in Q3.
I thought we were going to see someone on the podium. I had so much faith. I was like, finally, Aston Martin just
doing their thing.
Everything. Exactly. I thought they were finally going to turn it around, but nope. Both cars out in Q1. No, did Lance or Seb score points? I think
I think
Lance.
one of them scored points, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Anyways,
But
it
in
was
Monaco,
disappointing.
Seb was in P11. Lance was like much further up the grid.
Here's hoping that both of them pick it up, especially since I'm sitting in Lance Stroll's grandstand in a week's time. So,
Yeah.
anyways, we have the whole green Red Bull controversy. And speaking of Red Bull, we have Perez letting Max buy for the lead.
Now, I have a hot take on this. The contract that Perez signed to extend his time at Red Bull was signed between Spain and Monaco. That's when he signed. Now, I think that if Perez did not do exactly what he was told, and in a way pledge his allegiance to the Red Bull flag, I don't think he would have gotten that deal.
I
Or I
think
think
that's
that
a
deal would have
big
been done at the summer break.
that's a big stretch, I think.
I really think so.
I
Hear
think
me
that
out.
that's a big stretch.
Hear me out. That Red Bull seat is always going to be second fiddle to Max Verstappen until he retires or until he
Yeah.
clearly drops off dramatically.
Yeah.
I think that move, basically, because last year was the exact same thing with Mercedes, and Bottas gave lots of issues, let's say, to let Lewis pass. They don't want to do it at the beginning, kind of battled him. Whereas this time, Perez, Max, bye. Okay, it's okay, but it's unfair.
He said, we'll speak about this later.
Yes, and he handled like a true professional.
Perez is a media genius, in my opinion. He's
Yes,
handled
and
everything
that
so
is
well.
why he got the contract. Now, it was funny because when he won the Monaco GP, he spoke to Horner after the race. I don't know if you saw this, but while they were going up to the podium, he said, "Oh, Christian, I signed too soon." So it looks like he could have got a little more money with that Monaco win under his belt.
Well, I'm not complaining at all because I love when Sergio Perez wins. So, but we had a Max victory, and Sergio Perez's time came in the race after at the Monaco Grand Prix. And if you follow our Instagram and Facebook pages at the JJF1 podcast, you will know that I was in Monaco during that weekend. Unfortunately, I did not have tickets to the race or the practices or the qualifying because
it's not in the JJF1 budget.
Yeah, I don't have. Yeah, exactly. We don't have enough a budget yet. If we have companies that want to sponsor us, please send us messages.
Exactly what I was hinting at.
Exactly. But I also don't have Monaco money personally. So what's interesting in Monaco is that they switched the weekend around this year. That on Thursday instead of on Friday, there are F2, Porsche Super Cup, and Formula Renault practices. So since a lot of people say, oh, there's no F1 running, I'm just not going to go, tickets were really cheap. I got the tickets for, I think, 30 euros each or something like that, 35 euros. And I got to sit in front of the Monaco Harbor at the entry of the swimming pool chicane. So I think that was an absolutely perfect seat for me, especially for 30 euros. And I got to see some F2 drivers that we've been talking about on this podcast for so long. Like Roy Nassani, your boy, Yuri Vips, Jehan Daruvala, others that are definitely Logan Sargent, even like all these people that are rumored to eventually come into Formula One. And I saw them in F2 cars, and it was absolutely beautiful. I miss hearing Formula One cars so badly. So for me, and on top of that, going to the most historic Grand Prix of all time, the Monaco Grand Prix, was an absolute dream come true. And when people say that the city is actually turned into a racetrack, not even kidding. Like It's literally the entire city that is turned into a racetrack. It was a miracle that we got in and out of the city that day. But yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. And then 3 days later, I was in Grenoble, and I ended up watching the race from my my TV in a hotel in Grenoble. So yeah, let's run through Monaco. Um, don't you love it when we see Ferrari put on the clown makeup again, like they did in like 2018 and 2019?
Yeah, and also in 2021, we're forgetting about Charles Leclerc's accidental pole.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Charles Leclerc was on pole this time, and this time he was rightfully so on pole.
On merit.
Yeah,
I
on
mean,
merit.
we did have a Perez crash, but still.
Yeah, but it's not like back in 2021, Max Verstappen was on a hot lap. He was on purple sectors.
He was on purple sectors and everything.
He was gonna, yeah. It's different context. But yeah, he was on pole, more on merit than last time. And you know, we have this idea that Monaco is a no overtaking track. Generally, who starts first normally finishes first.
Unless your name is Pierre Gasly.
Yes. Or Charles Leclerc this year.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to talk to you about. Jonah, in Monaco, instead of overtaking, you could just use strategy and you can overtake. That's the main way of overtaking in Monaco, is by using your strategy. Now, what are your thoughts on Ferrari strategy? What are your thoughts on what happened to Charles Leclerc and how he went from P1 to ending in P4?
You know what? Charles Leclerc could say that he finished a Monaco Grand Prix for the first time in his Formula One career.
Yes, he can.
And sure, he could have won. He could have very much won. Like, I was ready to turn the TV off after like lap 50 something, and it didn't. But also because we had an hour delayed start, and then we had a red flag at some point, I think. Anyways, it's been a yeah, we had a lot of rain. But yeah, I don't understand how Ferrari are consistently making these kind of mistakes. And they have a history of making these kind of strategy mistakes when it matters most. And it's extremely disappointing because if there are so few things that went wrong in Charles Leclerc's season so far, if those things went right, he would be far and away the championship leader, but that's not the case. Part of it is his own fault, and part of it is Ferrari's fault. This time it's Ferrari's fault, and I just hope that they pick it up, because I want to have an interesting battle, and I want to see Charles win races again, because that man deserves to win races, and that man deserves to be a world champion. But when you have the team unraveling their own race, I can't imagine what the debrief is going to be like, because you know, it's extremely disappointing. That's all that I have to say about it.
Yeah, I really like hearing the Monegasque national anthem followed by the Italian national anthem.
It's a hub combo, eh?
It's a great combination.
The Mexican anthem, though, played by a live band, is really nice.
Yes, I will agree with you on that one.
I think that they should get orchestras and marching bands at every single F1 race to play the national
Monaco
anthem.
wouldn't be special,
but
if that was the case.
But that's not okay.
Look, my take on it is that I think Charles Leclerc is just very unlucky. And I think the same thing of Carlos Sainz. They're just very unlucky with the flags. They're very unlucky with strategy. And, you know, Charles Leclerc before, I believe it was Imola maybe, was like the first, he had won all his races by starting on pole.
Yeah, exactly.
I forget which race it was that broke that streak, but maybe it was
Oh, I thought
Miami.
it was still the case.
No, well, he started on pole in Miami and didn't.
Well, no, but it means that whenever he wins races, he wins them from pole. Doesn't mean that he converts all his poles into wins.
No, but it was that until like
Okay.
this year. But yeah, all of his wins have come from poles. Now I just think he's been really unlucky, and I'm hoping that you know, we're gonna have the summer break soon, and I'm hoping that this is a different season after the summer break, where we have the European leg, and you're gonna get all these upgrades, and hopefully Ferrari's putting a lot of money and they're playing with the cost cap to make sure they have the best car, because this is Charles Leclerc's chance to win the world championship.
Yeah, it
If
is.
if these next 3 or 4 races before the summer break are the most important races for him, and I'd love to see a Ferrari win on Canadian soil.
I'd like to see a Canadian win on Canadian soil.
Yes, but I don't think that's realistic. I don't think Nicholas Latifi or Stroll is going to be winning unless they, unless
That's what you think.
I don't know.
No, I'm being way too
points.
optimistic. Let's be real here.
But yeah, I really don't want to. It's also So I think he's just been very unlucky. Now, what I will say is big hats off to Carlos Sainz for finishing second in Monaco for the second year in a row.
Those last few laps, I was torn those last 2 laps because we had Perez that was in the lead and we had Sainz that was right behind him, and I don't know which one I wanted to win more.
Yeah, it's a conflict of interest, and
it's a big conflict of interest.
Carlos Sainz would have had his first win. Maybe that's going to come in Baku, your favorite track of the year.
I love Baku. It's my favorite track, not named Circuit Villeneuve.
Right. But after the Monaco Grand Prix, Joan, and now we've spoken about the race and how, well, let's first talk about how special it was to see Sergio Perez win and to see him jump in the pool. What was your reaction?
I was so happy, but also I was so nervous those last few laps, like I just said. And I said, oh my God, Checo's going to win. Sainz is going to win. Who's going to win? And Checo will always have a special place in my heart just because of what he did for Racing Point / Force India / whatever, everything before that. And to see him succeed like this, sure. Am I disappointed that it's not with Aston Martin? Yes.
It wouldn't have been with Aston Martin.
It wouldn't have been with Aston Martin anyways, but I'm so happy to see him in a Red Bull and win races like that.
Getting dropped by Aston Martin or Racing Point at the time was the best thing that happened to Checo's Formula One career.
Yeah. That's a very
winning
good point.
2 of the hardest races on the calendar, Monaco and Azerbaijan.
Mm-hmm.
And consistently in the podium places in the last few races of 2021.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, this man could be world champion if something happens.
Yeah. Now, Jonah, I wanted to address a couple of things with you. Now that we've spoken about the races briefly, there have been some rumors surfacing since the Monaco GP in the Formula One world.
Yep.
Now, the first one I want to address with you is you went to Monaco. You got to enjoy the city for what it was on a Formula One weekend.
Oh, don't tell me. Oh, no.
There has been some rumors
that this is the last Monaco Grand Prix.
That it could be. We are having new races come in. We have Qatar coming in next year. China is coming back. Clearly, countries that are willing to spend more of their cash to host a Formula One race. Now, what are your thoughts on there potentially not being a Monaco Grand Prix, but also what are your thoughts on them being replaced by a China, by a Qatar, or by a country like or a city like Vegas that has more money, that has more prestige, and may get more viewers?
Um, there's no F1 without Monaco. That's all I have to say. Is
I completely agree.
regardless of if it's a dead race or not, I don't care. It's Monaco. Like, it is such a beautiful thing to walk into Monaco and to see how that city transforms and to see all of its beauty. I mean, I know that a lot of people won't be able to experience it, but I don't care. Even on TV, it looks beautiful. People don't understand how difficult it is to drive that circuit, and that's it. Monaco absolutely has to stay. No questions asked. I don't care about the people who say that it's a dead race, because you can't have a Formula One season, statistically speaking, without Monaco unless there's a worldwide pandemic. Because it's been on every single calendar since 1950, except for 2020 during the pandemic. So it absolutely has to stay. And if it's replaced by Shanghai, you know how much I hate Shanghai. So if Shanghai comes back and there's no Monaco, I'm going to lose my mind. That's it.
Yeah, I think Monaco is synonymous with Formula One. And even when you're not there on an F1 weekend, just walking the streets of Monaco and going through the tunnel, for example, or the swimming pool or the Herpine, you recognize it. Even if you're not a crazy Formula One fan, just doing a bit of Formula One, you would recognize these turns. They're historic turns on the
And the
calendar.
Rascas, the tunnels, swimming pool.
They each have their uniqueness to it. And not just that, the Principality has its own richness, it has its own culture, it has its own unique aspects that are each synonymous with the prestige of Formula One. And I don't
Basically,
think that
it's
can ever
bougie.
yeah, and that it can never be replaced.
Not at all.
And I think it's beautiful. I love Monaco when it's not a Formula One, when it's not Formula One season. I think it's a beautiful place just to be and to walk around the old city. I've been there as well. And I would be incredibly sad if it leaves and is replaced by, a country whose tourism board or whose government is willing to give more money than the Monegasque.
In my opinion, all these new countries that are trying to host races, in my opinion, are trying to replicate the opulence of Monaco.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have to say about it. I mean, sure, Saudi Arabia and Qatar and the UAE could build these magnificent tracks with beautiful podiums and bring everyone in and whatever, but it's just trying to replicate Monaco without being in Monaco, giving a Monaco Grand Prix like atmosphere without being in Monaco.
Yeah.
That's the gist of it.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Another rumor I wanted to address with you is a driver that we speak a lot about on this podcast.
Way too much.
I really like this driver as a human being. When I was traveling, I actually met a couple of Australians at a bar who had told me that they are mutual friends with Ricardo and have met him, and he's one of the nicest guys. And I don't think that could be said a lot about Formula One drivers, especially when you get to such a high level. Sometimes you let the fame get to you. Sometimes you let the prestige get to you. When you hear that Daniel Ricciardo is a nice guy, makes you want to be a fan. Yeah. But however, there have been rumors circulating for the past week, and Zach Brown, the CEO of McLaren Racing, has even commented on them, hinting at, Ricciardo not being around with McLaren in 2023, despite there already being a contract in place. Kind of like a Sergio Perez situation with Racing Point.
Flashbacks.
Zach Brown has said, and explicitly said this, whether he is right or wrong in saying this is a separate discussion, said that there are mechanisms in his contract to terminate the contract that he's not a driver in 2023. Mm-hmm. What do you think of Ricciardo not being in that seat, them terminating his contract, Zach Brown saying those comments, and potentially a Piastri or a Pato Award replacing him in that seat next year.
I was gonna say, hot take right now, he's getting replaced by Piastri or Logan Sargent.
Really? Okay. And
Yeah.
what do you think of the whole process behind it?
It reminds me of Sergio Perez. That's all I have to say. Do I mean, the thing is that we have to understand that it's a business decision. Daniel Ricciardo is an extremely nice person. He's absolutely amazing off the track, but on the track, he's not performing. And we could see that it's not just the car because Lando Norris is doing well. So if it means that his contract needs to be terminated now and that his career is over, so be it. I mean, the results haven't shown for the last few years, with the exception of obviously that Monza win, which we can't take away from him. But that's it. That's it for me, honestly. I think that he's out. Do I feel bad for Daniel Ricciardo? Yes. Do I feel bad for McLaren? Not at all.
Now, I agree with you that his numbers have not been up to par with Lando Norris or what the team expects of him. However, I don't think they should be doing it the way that they're going about it. I think speaking about it at this point in the season is way too early.
I think it puts a fire under Daniel Ricciardo to perform.
It might, but I don't know if he is able to perform. It's getting to that point. So because of that, I don't think that it should be spoken about this on in the season. Maybe internally, but with the media, not at all. Okay. It's Monaco, not even the summer break yet. And also, Daniel Ricciardo is always better at the European leg after the summer break.
To talk about Monza.
Yeah, so I really think that we should give him a chance, especially because McLaren's car has not been this good this season so far. I think that he will eventually get replaced.
And he's going to have to, like, eventually, obviously, but I think that he's getting replaced next year.
So this is the next thing I want to talk about. A very, very interesting name has been linked to that McLaren seat for replacing Daniel Ricciardo. And it's someone that we wouldn't expect because we think he'd go to a French team. But Pierre Gasly's name has been linked to McLaren in the past week. And he is not getting his seat at Red Bull. What do you think of him potentially going to McLaren and replacing Ricciardo?
I think that I don't know, because the thing is that, in my opinion, Pierre Gasly moving to McLaren is more of a sideways move than an upwards move. So if he's just going to leave the Red Bull family and to go to something that's in the midfield, and as we've seen, the midfield can mix up every single year, then what's the point? What's the point of Pierre Gasly leaving? He has that seat at AlphaTauri for as long as he wants. So I don't know. I don't think that he should do it because for me, it's more of a sideways move than an upwards move.
Now, I agree with you, except I don't agree with one thing that you just said.
Tell me.
You just said that he has the AlphaTauri seat for as long as he wants, but I completely disagree. I think that Helmut Marko said about a couple of weeks ago that if he's not getting the Red Bull seat in 2024, they're going to have to make some room because we have to remember what this AlphaTauri team's purpose is. Is it to win races? No. It's to be a pool of Red Bull drivers. And you know what? We mention every week that there's an amazing pool of Red Bull juniors. The Ruvula picked them last year. There is an amazing... Liam Lawson. There's an amazing pool of Red Bull drivers that are in the pipe that cannot just be reserve drivers for their careers or cannot, start off as a reserve driver and then forgotten about, because that's what tends to happen. 2 years ago, we're all talking about Schwartzman and Eilert being the next Formula One racers they got stuck in reserve driver roles and no one's talking about them anymore.
You want to hear something interesting about Robert Schwarzman? He's currently registered as an Israeli and not a
It's true.
Russian.
He is born. I think he is born in Israel.
He's born in Israel and he's an Israeli citizen. And because of the Russian ban, he is competing as an Israeli, and that's why he's allowed to continue being a reserve driver.
Well, in that case, I really hope that he gets a seat at Ferrari.
Yeah.
But anyways, all to say that I think that the move to McLaren would only work out if we ask ourselves two questions. Number one, is he going to get the seat at Red Bull before 2024? I think the obvious answer is no.
I love Perez.
And the second question is do we think that McLaren has more of a desire to be at the front of the grid than AlphaTauri or even the other teams you could potentially go to like Alpine? I think the answer for that is yes. They have a greater appetite for that. So I think that
they have the better potential also, but right now,
I think that move would not hurt him because his time at AlphaTauri, I think, is numbered. But we are going to talk about all of this in our driver predictions episode coming up in the next few weeks.
Oh yeah, we need to do that. Meanwhile, tomorrow we are starting the weekend of my favorite Grand Prix not named Sokishin Vinov. We are going to Azerbaijan and Baku. Time for bold predictions, Jordan.
Bold predictions. I think that this is the weekend. I said at the beginning of the year that Valtteri Bottas will not get one, but he'll get 2 podiums this year. I am sticking to that prediction, and I think that this is the weekend where Valtteri Bottas gets P3 and winds up on the podium.
Well, I think that Sebastian Vettel has never finished lower than 4th in Baku in his entire career, and I think that that's going to stay the same this year.
That's actually a really bold prediction given how bad Aston Martin has been. But you know what? At this time last year, they were pretty bad too.
Exactly. And look what happened.
There we go.
Steph got a podium in Baku.
That was a crazy race though.
Coincidence? I think not.
Yes, but
could someone flip Max's brake magic at the start?
Jonah, that is it for this week. What do you have to remind the audience?
Reminder to follow us on Instagram and like our Facebook page at the JJF1 podcast. And we will see you for the next episode. See ya.